Hey there, it's Olivia-Savannah here from Olivia's Catastrophe, and today we are doing a TBR challenge check-in. It's our last check-in before we're going to get the final results in the month of January. So in this one we're going to go over the months of July, August and September, see how I did with my TBR challenge and if I've got any thoughts and feedback on how it's been going. If you're not sure what I'm yapping on about right now, I'll have links in the description box down below where you can see what my TBR challenge is all about, and I'll also link the previous two updates if you've missed out on one. Without further ado, let's get into this check-in. So we were at 690 books at the end of June, and then we had July come in. So in July I read 6 books. I added 20 books to my TBR, that's a big haul, and I unloaded and donated and unhauled 29 books, which is a huge book unhaul and unload. So with everything combined, my TBR shrank down to the number of 675, which felt like actually making a nice significant dent in my TBR. So I was very proud of that number. I was really happy and feeling great about the fact that it decreased so much. July was my slowest reading month at 6 books, and this happens literally every single June or July for me. Something about the summer months, it just means my reading tanks. I feel like it's because I've been reading for 6 months straight at a very steady rate. My reading always just slows down. Summer happens, I spend more times outdoors, outside. As soon as the sun is shining, I want to be outside. And it's actually funny because one of my favorite summer activities is to read outside in the park, and yet I don't read more books because of this. Make the maths make sense, it just doesn't. But whatever, I read less in July, it happens. It's a slow reading month. Fine. Like, I actually read more than 6 books in the month of July, but I borrowed some ebooks and also some audiobooks from my library. This is when I read The Duke and I by Julia Quinn on audio, and I also read The Lily Chew on audio, so that doesn't count to decreasing my TBR size. And then on top of that as well, I also reread a bunch of Sierra Simone in the month of July. I think when I'm going through a slower reading month, it's nice to reread books that you adore, and that just doesn't count towards my TBR, so it really shrank only by a little bit. I finally made myself play a game for a month which is called Unhaul Every Book for a Book You Haul. So as you can see, I hauled in 20 books, so that meant I had to unhaul 20 books, and I did it. I did that very successfully, but I actually ended up unhauling 29 because the thing about when you decide to look at your shelves and see what you don't want to keep, you can actually see books that you don't want to keep even though you don't have to unhaul them. And so I got rid of any excess books. I just thought, like, realistically, am I going to read this? No. And actually playing unhaul a book for every book you haul in worked out very well for me. And actually I did that unhaul for every book I haul halfway through the month, and that increased my haul books even more because it meant I'd unhauled a lot. I'd unhauled extra than I needed to, which meant I had more space to say yes. So actually I unhauled 29 books when I was playing unhaul for haul, and maybe I only did that for 10, so then I could accept an extra 10 books quite easily because I had the space to play around with it. So yeah, that was a very successful month for my challenge in July. And then let's look at the month of August. So August, my reading went back up to its usual. I read 14 books in the month of August. That's actually quite a high reading month for me looking back on my history. I added 17 books, which is quite a lot still, and then I unhauled 9 books, which is less than the previous month, but that makes sense because I just did a big unhaul. I don't really have that much to say about the month. I read about the same as usual. My haul was a little higher than normal, which isn't ideal, but it's just what it was. And then my unhaul books, 3 of those unhaul books were involuntary unhauls. That's when I had my mold issue and I had to throw away 3 books that were on my TBR. So 3 of those 9 books are books that I had to just bin, and then some of them are DNFs and some of them are unhauls. And also this was a month that I felt quite successful. So even though my number went down to 669, which is a success because it decreased by 6 books, which is fantastic, but it also felt like a success because I read the 5th oldest book on my TBR, which meant that I was like getting through my oldest books, and I read quite a lot of books that fell into my oldest 200, which is just really satisfying when you're kicking the oldest ones off of your TBR. Moving on to the month of September, the last month that we're going to go through here, I read 10 books, which again is kind of my average, so I was very happy with reading 10 books. I hauled in 22 books, which is a bit more than the average, and I don't really have much to say here. It's just that as soon as you get into the autumn, there's all those like October, November releases that are horror skewing, that are genre fiction, and that is just, you know, my kryptonite. So I did haul in more books than I probably should have at 22 books. And also it's the time where publishers start making their 2026 proofs, and so I got some proofs of books that are coming out next year that I'm very excited about. So it was really hard to say no. I tried to be as selective as possible, and yet I still ended up with 22 new books, so that's that. And I also unhauled 16 books. Now this is because every month of September I do a video where I film the entirety of my own TBR, and this is actually fantastic for me in terms of unhauling books that I don't want to read, because you have to do a Mary Kondo and you cannot escape it. When you are filming your entire TBR, you have to physically hold every book that you own on your TBR, and you have to tell the camera and tell all of you guys, this is a book that I've decided to keep on my shelves and I actively want to read it. And by saying that and declaring that, sometimes I held a book in my hand and I was just like, I don't really want to read this anymore, or I just don't think this is me anymore. I've changed as a person. So it meant that I unhauled 16 books. Some of them are DNFs. I actually quite a lot of DNFs that month. I think 4 were DNFs. So 4 of them were DNFs, and then the other, doing maths very quickly, the other 12 books were books I held in my hand and I thought, I actually don't want to read this. So I did a whole Mary Kondo moment, and it led to quite a satisfying unhaul. And in the end, that month I actually read more than 10 books. I think I again read closer to 14. But I also did a very good thing where I read books that I didn't own and then I bought copies of the book afterwards. For example, Don Quixote, I didn't bring home a copy of Girl Dinner or Extremity until after I'd read it, so they didn't actually ever get added onto my TBR, but you know, I still read them, so it just didn't count to the numbers for that month. And even though my haul number was higher, 22, I actually hauled in books and then read them immediately some this month, so that was very good. And also I hauled in 5 books, so 5 of that 22 were concise classics, which I then decided I did not want to read after immediately hauling them in. That was my bad. I should have said no to the offer that I got, and I shouldn't have requested them after I was given that offer, because I tried one and I didn't like it, so one of them went into my red category. But of the 5 that I hauled, I then immediately unhauled 4 and read 1, so they immediately were hauled in, so they're in the 22 quantity, and then they were unhauled as part of the 16 quantity and the red quantity. So that was actually a boo-boo, my mistake. And after doing that, I realized again I still need to work on being more selective in terms of saying yes to books and saying yes, I do want to take that book in. So even though I feel like this challenge I've made so much progress in terms of saying yes or no to review opportunities, I could still improve, and that was very humbling to find out 9 months into my challenge. However, overall I consider the month of September a success still, because I still decreased by 4 books, and my TBR is now at 665 when it started at 695. So thinking of the whole year, I feel proud that my TBR has shrunk. You know, that is very satisfying to see that my TBR is still getting smaller. However, within context, I have been reading approximately 10 plus books every single month. And yet, after 9 months of doing that, 90 books later, more or less, give or take, my TBR has only shrunk by 30 books. You know, when you put it in that perspective, you know, doing the odds, to think that I have read 90 books and I have unhauled over 90 books this year, and I'm still only decreasing my TBR by 30 books. It's not a good look. It's not a good look. So I'm still very, very proud of the progress that I made on my TBR challenge. I think I've actually shrunk my TBR, and honestly, every year my TBR grows. Every year my TBR grows, but that's not going to be the case this year because of this challenge, and so it is serving its purpose. It's doing a good job, and I'm doing a good job, and I'm celebrating that. But I'm still thinking in the long term of my habits and how they're still just not feasible. It's not feasible for your TBR to just grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. So something still significant has to change, because it's not really working. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts on my TBR challenge. I will be posting my final update in January, so stay tuned until next year where we can reflect on the challenge as a whole. Please let me know in the comment section down below if you have any advice on curbing the TBR, because I'll take it. You know, I don't often open the room to advice. I feel like I often have it down pat, but today I'll take every lick of advice I can get. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button if you want to see more, and don't forget to hit that notification bell to be updated every time I have a new video. And you know what they say, onwards and upwards. Excelsior.